Seahawks fans, wherever you may be. Thanks for listening to the show. Join your hosts, Bill Alvstad and Keith Myers, as we talk Seahawks football. Hey, hi, Seahawks fans. Welcome back to another episode of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down with co-host Keith Myers, here to preview the Seahawks versus 49ers home game tomorrow night, Thanksgiving matchup between division rivals. And believe it or not, if the Seahawks win this game, they come away in first place in the NFC West via tiebreaker. And it's a very important game. I mean, the most important game of the season, you could easily argue. How you doing, Keith? Welcome in.
Yeah, I'm doing good. You're right about that. This is the most important game of the season. And we're going to keep saying that as long as the team keeps staying in the playoff picture, and especially for the NFC West. So if getting this win would be huge, especially after such an awful loss last week, and going into the stretch of 4 games in a row that are going to be really tough. Getting a win here to start this off really helps set the table and helps them, end up in a good spot after the stretch is over.
Yeah, it's really a tale of two different teams over the last few years. San Francisco has been set up for a little while now. They had a rough stretch when Seattle was riding its success with Russell Wilson at the helm. And then they had first-round draft picks. They've got a really decent general manager, obviously. And they've been able to build their roster. Excuse me. In the past 3 years, they've won 30 of 44 games that they've played in. They've been to 2 NFC championship games, including last year. They did have a stretch of games this October where they lost 3 in a row. They lost their left tackle and Deebo Samuel out for a while. Brock Purdy had a concussion where they lost the game against the Vikings. But other than that, they've been pretty dominant, outscoring their opponent 61-17 in the last 2 games. And Seattle is kind of reeling a little bit. They've had an up and down season, although they came into the last game at 6-3, hoping to get to 7-3. Did not turn out that way. And Seattle dropped to 6-4, lost to the Rams. And it was an ugly loss. We all know about that. We're not going to rehash that. But this is another opportunity. It sounds like Geno Smith is going to be able to play, although he might not be 100%. And it looks like Kenneth Walker is going to be out. Abe Lucas has been practicing all week, but he's not going to play, according to Pete Carroll. And this team's just going to have to figure out a way to regroup after that loss and play 4 days later against probably, arguably, the best team in the NFL, the San Francisco 49ers. And
yeah, I mean, it's
we'll
at least
see what
the
happens.
best roster. I honestly, they top to bottom, I think it's the best roster in the NFL. It's got
they rank 3rd in
really
the NFL in scoring offense
everywhere.
and 1st in scoring defense too. I mean, they're just solid, both sides of the ball.
Then that's one of the things that I was looking at right before we hit record was they're the best offense and the best defense all at the same time, and that's with that 3-game losing streak in there.
Right.
And
when they're
Brock
healthy,
Purdy's, the last 2 games has really been sharp. So it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, it is going to be a challenge. But you know what? They've been looking at this thing on their calendar for a long time. This stretch of games, it starts with this game. And this is the time of the year, the schedule where you separate yourself of either being a really good, solid team or you're falling off. And this is where they're at. And it'll be interesting to see how they handle the challenge. I think that's the most important thing for me. When you really break it down, yeah, they might lose, but how do they lose? They might win, but how do they win? Like, are they going to come in and just compete their asses off? And are they going to just surprise us? Are they going to come out and create turnovers and plays on defense? We know they're capable. Witherspoon is turning out to be one of the best players in the NFL. Save the Seahawks defense. He's just going to end up being a consummate all-pro year in, year out. And Rick Woolen on the other side. Diggs is a ball hawk. He's proved that in the past. Bobby Wagner's back
that
there.
way this year.
It's true, but you never know when it all comes together in a certain game, and they feel the motivation, and that's what happens in these type of games. This is a big game. It's a Thursday night. Not only that, it's Thanksgiving. The whole entire country is going to be watching this thing, and they've got a lot of pride. And I'd like to see them come together and just put it all together and see what happens. You just never know. It was an ugly loss. Didn't feel good. It was against a bad team. And here we are just 4 days later. That thing is washed. And I expect this team to come in and compete. I don't expect them to be one of those teams that scored, a combined 13 points over the last 2 weeks against the 49ers. They've got a better offense than that. And I expect them to show it.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, this offense has to come together and play like we know they can. Haven't done it all year. That's the problem. They just aren't efficient. They go through long stretches where they just can't convert a third down. And if they're going to beat good teams like San Francisco, they've got to do better on third down. That's just simple. They've got to do better on third down. Some of that is, Gino's got to make better decisions and stop throwing the ball deep on 3rd and 4. And we need to make sure that he's got outlets, because there were a couple times, you were right, there were a couple of third downs where they didn't have a single person running to the sticks. Everyone was going 15 yards or deeper, and that doesn't help Gino get rid of the ball with the pass rush the way it is. They've got to help him out. They've got to do that kind of stuff, but at the same time, he's got to play better. And until he does, this offense is not going to be very good.
Good or bad, it comes where I think San Francisco is getting ready for their stretch. Their last game with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Brock Purdy, you mentioned, just really kind of coming into his own, completed 21 of 25 passes last week, 84%, 333 yards, 13.3 per attempt. We can talk about what Seattle's doing and where Gino's at with that. 15.9 yards per completion, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions last week, had a perfect passer rating of 158.3. Doesn't happen very often in the NFL. There's just a handful of guys that are playing today that have done that in the past. Gino, in fact, did that one game in 2016. Not nearly the statistical game that Purdy just had, but he accomplished that. Then they've got Christian McCaffrey, who's the best rusher in the NFL, leading the NFL in rushing. It's just going to be tough. It's going to be tough. 49ers run the ball 46% of the time on first down. They kind of own the running game. That's their identity. Man, Purdy comes in and compliments it like heck. I mean, everyone kind of poo-poos him a little bit, but let's watch him run this offense when he comes into town. He did it 3 times last year against the Seahawks. Seattle swept against this team, including a wild card loss. So it's definitely an uphill battle. Like I said, 49ers ranked 3rd in the NFL in scoring and 1st in scoring defense. It's going to be tough. And they run a base defense, which is very challenging. Bosa, Young, Hargrave, Alvstad, their 4 defensive linemen are some of the best in the business, and they only blitz 13% of the time. They don't need to. They don't need to blitz.
If you can get pressure with 4, you don't blitz, because why open up holes behind your, behind the line? Why make it harder on your linebackers and defensive backs when you don't have to? They can get pressure as well as anyone with only 4 guys, because all 4 of their starters on the defensive line are elite pass rushers.
Yeah.
And Seattle's got a terrible offensive line right now. So it's not a great combination.
Yeah, it's not. But, it is what it is. Like I said, if Seattle wins this game some way, somehow, at home on Thursday night, we take over first place in the division. And gives us kind of an upper hand if we continue to win on this team. The following week we travel to the Cowboys. They've been kind of a hit and miss team this year. Maybe we can get them on a bad day. We come off a very strong win and continue to build on this thing. You just never know in the NFL. It's kind of weird. 1 week could be the start of many weeks of successes.
Yeah.
And this team could do that.
This offense can click and do great things. We saw it last year, and it's a lot of the same guys, although they've added talent. It is a more talented team this year than last year, but the offense is performing at a much lower rate. It's hard to explain why, but we know this offense can put up points once things come together. The key is that those things need to come together, and they need to come together fairly soon because this team needs to start
tomorrow
being able to beat good teams if they're going to get into the playoffs, because that's what their next 4 games. Their next 4 games are against really good teams, and you've got to beat at least 2 of them. I think
the Seahawks have the second hardest schedule remaining in the NFL.
Yeah,
and it's because of these 4 teams right here.
Yeah, because it's not for the 4 or the 3 games after that.
So we just talked about San Francisco's offense. How does Seattle come together as a defense to slow them down, to interrupt their timing, to minimize their points scored in order to give the team the best chance to win?
Well, they've got to be super disciplined, especially on the backside, because that's what they do. They do a lot of play action, a lot of having the quarterback, bootleg the other direction. And if you don't stay disciplined on the backside, he's going to be standing over there with no one attacking him and can just take his time and do what he wants. But if you have if your defensive end on the opposite side of the play stays home, recognizes that, he's still got the ball and attacks upfield, you can pressure him and you can make him throw it before he wants to. You just there's got to be discipline. You got to make sure that you're doing your job and you're not trying to do everyone else's job. And the linebackers have to be really smart about reading what's actually going on, whether the running back has the ball or whether Brock Purdy does, because they're going to play action pass as much as anybody. And that really is what puts pressure on defenses.
Yeah, they do some play action passing. I mean, McCaffrey obviously is the best running back. That sets them up really well. Surprisingly, they're middling in the NFL as far as play action rate. I think they're like 14th in the NFL. It's surprising only in that he's very successful when he does that. I think he's got like 8 touchdowns, 1 interception, a passer rating of 121, something like that, while in play action. So what does Seattle do well that you think we could take advantage of in this game?
I think what Seattle does well is they stop the run well most of the time.
We're going to be challenged in this game.
They're a bit weird in that it's not all the time, but they stop the run well most of the time. And that is the key to beating San Francisco. If you look at the 3 games that they lost, 3 in a row, teams stop the run. When you stop the run, you get rid of the play action and it becomes more of a slog. Brock Purdy he's very accurate. He makes quick reads. He gets the ball out of his hands very quickly, but he doesn't have the biggest arm. He doesn't have the ability to make a bunch of guys miss to extend a play. Things have to be on schedule. And luckily he's on a team and it's really well coached where guys do the right things so that he's on schedule all the time. But he's a guy that if you can stop the run, get him out of the play action, you can beat him. You attack him. He's not, like I said, he's not particularly mobile. So if you attack him, once you get him into 3rd and long, you can get to him and you can cause him to make some mistakes. He won't throw interceptions, but he's more likely to throw the ball away and go ahead and punt than extend a play and make a big play down the field. So,
what strategy, Keith, would you employ to slow down McCaffrey, Kittle, and Deebo Samuel? Like, would you double team Samuel on every play and just take him out of the game? Would you make sure you've got a body on Kittle right from the line of scrimmage, from the get-go? What do you do about McCaffrey?
Well, so McCaffrey's like the hard one because there isn't anyone that can really. I mean, who's the guy that can stay with them? Do you dust off Devin Bush and see if he still remembers what a football looks like since he hasn't played much this year? Because he's
normally
the guy that's
you
got
would say a guy like Adams, but
yeah,
Adams is coming off a week where he had a knee. Who knows where he's at as far as his speed is concerned. I really haven't been paying attention,
and
to be honest.
Because if you're lining up and you're putting Wagner as the guy and you're just asking him to pick up McCaffrey coming out of the backfield, that's not going to be pretty. That's not going to be pretty. At the same time, if you want him covering George Kittle coming off the line, that's also not going to be pretty. I think you run with Kittle, you mix it up between Jordan Brooks, Julian Love, and Jamal Adams if he plays. I think that you
Jamal Adams is going to play.
Jordan Love, and maybe Jordan Brooks, maybe Boye Mafe to pick up McCaffrey when he comes out of the backfield. You've got to make sure you're getting guys on guys that are capable. If you're trying to match Witherspoon up against Kittle, I think that's not going to work well for you because he gives up 5 inches to him and about 50 pounds.
What do you think about the idea of having Witherspoon covering McCaffrey out of the backfield and having Trey Brown and Woolen come in instead of having like a Jamal Adams in coverage?
I would be okay with that, especially with Adams' knee still giving him trouble. If you can, use the physicality and speed that you have with a guy like Witherspoon. He's one of the few guys fast enough and agile enough to stick with McCaffrey.
Do you have enough time in this week, being a short week, to be able to do those things?
That's the problem. It's because it's a Thursday game. There's no practice time. You run a walkthrough, and then you might run another walkthrough, and then you play the game. There's no practice this week, and there's no opportunity to install a game plan that is different than what you normally
unless they've
do.
already done it and had it in place and just ready to go.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have practiced it since training camp, so it would require going back through it again. It's just been too long. So I just don't think that you can. I don't think you can get away from what you do far enough for a Thursday night game. You have to just lean on what you do well because you can't really prep for these games. Typically what happens with these Thursday night games is they benefit the home team more because there's a lot less travel and, all of that. So they end up being more rested and more ready, and it benefits the better roster. Because if neither team can game plan much, if you can just line up and beat the guy in front of you, you're going to win these games. And that's the first part of that gives Seattle, some hope because they're the home team and it's a lot easier to win at home on Thursday than it is on the road. But the second part definitely benefits San Francisco. And they're a 7.5 point favorite I saw today, which as a road underdog, a road favorite, Seattle is a home dog. That is a lot of points. Vegas does not trust Seattle one bit in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the disparity is there, but the records are fairly close. Seattle wins this last game. They're tied up in the division. The additions, since the last time we saw them, they jettisoned their left tackle, Mike McGlinchey, the right tackle, and Jimmy Ward left and Emmanuel Mosley left. But they added Javon Hargrave in free agency. They added Jair Brown in the draft and in the offseason, at the trade deadline, right before the deadline, they added Chase Young to this team, the edge rusher out of Washington, D.C. What kind of impact do those guys have on this roster?
Oh, I mean, Hargrave and Young just match up there with Armstead and Bosa and give them a front
It's just
four.
not fair, is it?
That's just freaking not fair. It's just, there isn't an offensive line in this league that can block those guys. You can't double team all four of them. And everyone but Armstead, but the other three need to be double teamed, and you can't. So you're going to end up leaving Armstead single blocked. You're probably going to do the same with Chase Young to your own detriment, and trying to get help from Bosa because he's dominant. And it's just a really tough place to be. Gino's got to get the ball out of his hands. He's got to get the ball out of his hands. He's got to do it very quickly. And
they've got to run the ball, Keith. In this game, they've got to run the ball, because if they do not, they will just tee up and it'll be ugly.
With no Walker, right? That's a lot of pressure to put on Charbonnet, who did not have a great game this last week when he finally got a chance to get.
He didn't have a bad game, but he didn't have a great game.
Yeah, well, I mean, he didn't have a great game. He had a couple of really nice runs, and then had a lot of runs where there was just no blocking in front of him, so he just got bottled up at the line, or sometimes behind the line, and then he had to fall forward for a yard in order to just make something out of it. But in the end, the running game was like 3.1 yards per carry. Which isn't going to get it done.
That might surprise you. Seattle apparently has a top 5 run blocking team according to a composite rating from Pro Football Focus, SIS, and ESPN.
Okay, so that right there should start to indicate why I don't trust Pro Football Focus's rating.
Well, I said it was composite, so it was three separate ratings to composite as a fifth best run blocking team.
Yeah, you're gonna have to show that to me, because I watch the All-22 every week, and I don't see that whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, we're number 4 in the NFL. The 49ers are number 2 overall, according to this. A lot of what I see
is the positive yards that happen because there's no hole, but Walker sells where he's going to go and then bounces it outside, and he makes the linebackers do the wrong thing. And
these are based on pass blocking win rates. I don't know. I haven't really completely studied this.
Pass block or run block?
This is run blocking. This is a run blocking composite rating.
No.
So 3 separate inputs for, the rating composited into one master rate. So anyway, I just thought I'd point that out, because it seems like the blocking's there according to this. I don't think
it's there. The blocking's been there at times, and the Seahawks just don't run the ball enough. And there have been games where the run blocking actually has been really good, but the Seahawks just didn't run the ball enough.
In limited opportunities, maybe that's the key there, is that we run so few times that. But
if you go back and you look at this last game, the run blocking was not there. It wasn't. Walker only had 4 carries, but on 2 of them, it was bottled up until he bounced it and turned it into a gain. But they didn't block him any yards. Those were Walker yards. And Charbonnet ran into the same problem. There were a couple of runs where they actually, got bodies on people, and there was a hole, and he took advantage and got 8 or 9 yards. But there were a lot of plays where there was someone unblocked, meeting him right when he gets the football, and he's got to fight through that just to get back to the line of scrimmage. And that happened more so than actually having a good blocking. The idea that this is a top run blocking team is, I'm sorry, they're not. I mean, there have been good games, but it's such a small sample size where we say good game, but they only ran the ball 11 times.
We are. I think I wrote this down. I can't remember where I put it, but we are like bottom third of the NFL in running.
Yeah.
Yards gained, yards per carry, etc. It's just crazy. I thought it would have been a strength of this team going into the season.
The yards gained, that can be okay. That can be a play calling thing, right? But when it's yards per carry and you're bottom third, that means you're not good at it. And that is that's the problem.
Yeah, I think last year we were 4.6. This year we're 4.1 or something like that.
I don't know that high. I think we're like 3.9 at this point after this last game.
So I wanted to talk about.
Bad.
Go ahead. I want to talk about injury.
This is a team that needs to run the ball. They need to be good at running the ball, and right now they're not good at running the ball, and that is part of why the offense is struggling.
Agreed. I want to talk about the injury report really quick. Actually, both teams are doing pretty well considering the time of the year. Both teams come in pretty healthy. Jarek Reed is going to be out of this game. He's got a knee. Doubtful is Ken Walker and Derek Young. I think both are not expected to play according to Pete. Questionable, Abe Lucas and Geno Smith. Abe Lucas practiced this week, but Pete said he won't play in this game. So overall,
if he wasn't ready this last week, he's not going to be ready this week when there's no actual practice. These are walkthroughs. Right. This isn't an actual practice. And anyone that wasn't ready on Sunday is not going to be ready Thursday. That's just not how it works.
But anybody else not listed is good to go. So it should be, I mean, we're coming in full strength, depending on where Geno's at with his elbow. If that impacts his throwing at all, this game is not going to work.
Oh yeah. This game can get ugly quick.
Mm-hmm. What are you expecting?
Arms...
Let's just kind of get right to it, Keith. What are you expecting? What's the score? Who wins?
I am expecting the Seahawks to come out and compete. I want them to fight. I want them to show that they belong. I think that the fact that they traded for Leonard Williams is going to give them the opportunity to weather the storm of having Jarron Reed out, because now you've got another guy that can do that. And
I didn't know Jarron Reed was out.
Didn't you say that he was out with his knee?
Jarek Reed.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
Jarek Reed the second, because
I know that
Jarron
Reed was he left the game and missed, but he came back, and so I was surprised.
He's good to go. He's not on the list at all.
Okay, that makes me feel better, because I know that he missed a little bit, but he came back to the game, so I didn't think it was going to be a thing. I think that the defense can slow down San Francisco. Can they stop them? No. San Francisco is going to score points. I think Seattle's offense can move the ball against San Francisco and score points, but they've got to turn opportunities into touchdowns and not field goals, which they haven't shown that they can do. And they've got to convert third downs at a rate better than they've done all year against a better defense than they've played all year.
That's a lot.
That's not something that I'm thinking that they're going to do well. So I'm looking at this game and I'm thinking that it being at home, being on Thursday night, all those things may help Seattle, but I just don't think Seattle has enough right now. They need the offense to get back healthy and an opportunity to get right. And until that happens, I'm not going to pick them over a good team like San Francisco. I think this game ends up like 31-23. Seahawks just get too many field goals and not enough touchdowns to keep up.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said up front as far as being competitive and coming out with a little fire. I see that. I think that that's going to happen. I actually see this being a very competitive game, a lot closer than people think, a lot closer than the 7.5 that Vegas is giving them on the spread. Will they overcome? There's the margin for error is very little in this game for the Seahawks. They're probably going to need 1 or 2 turnovers to give the balance of opportunity to Seattle. I think if that happens, Seattle could win this game, especially if there's like a pick six or something like that. Or we can get a turnover in their territory. It's going to take a complete game. Seattle's offense is going to have to show up. There's going to have to be some big plays. Playmakers are going to have to make plays in this game. And that would be true regardless if we came in 7-1, 9-1, whatever. Seattle would have to make plays in order to get past this team. It's just a really good team. And on the defensive side, I see some turnovers. I really do. We've got some playmakers. They've had a chance to look at the film, and you just gotta have to go play. They didn't have a lot of time this week to practice, to put anything else in. No exotic packages. They're just gonna have to go out and play. And I think that can happen for this team. And if they do, I think this could be a win for them. Surprisingly, I think that would surprise a lot of people that somebody would actually pick them to win this week. And I think, given where they're at, they're not a bad team. They went into last week 6-3. They've got an opportunity to really kind of show what kind of character they have. And I think that they will. I think Pete Carroll will have them ready to go. And this team squeaks out like a 21-20 victory at home on Thursday night, Thanksgiving. And
I'd love to see that.
I would too.
Love to see that.
Get this team back on track. First place, confidence would be sky high. We'd go into Dallas, and this team would be ready to go down the stretch. If they lose this game, Keith, especially if they lose it badly, I worry about the mental makeup of this team and their ability to withstand the criticism that's going to come and all that. Because it's going to be a tough stretch of games. Because this game is just one of 4 that they're going to have to go through that are going to be battles like they haven't seen all year. And I would love for them to kick off with a win, and we'll see what happens. But I'm hoping, and I don't expect them to win. I want them to win. I think that they will if everything goes correctly. And that's a lot to ask for this team. But
one of the things you have to look at with this team is they lost last week because of self-inflicted wounds. They can't do that. If they can avoid the self-inflicted wounds, they're a much better team than I think most people think. And right now, so far, they haven't been able to do that.
Yeah.
But they should be able to, at some point, figure this out. And if they can get things back where we know they can get to, they're going to start surprising people. They're a good team.
Yeah. I think they can rise to the moment. And this is a big moment.
It is a big moment.
And big players come up for big moments, and we'll see where the team's at. I think this is definitely a barometer of where we're at a critical time.
I would caution against putting too much stock into all of it, especially if Gino has a rough game throwing the ball with his injury, because it could get ugly. But then you're looking at, well, what was the reason why? Well, the reason why was that they had plays that could be made that normally they would make, but it didn't happen because of an injured quarterback. You know what I mean? Like,
do you think that Shane Waldron scales it down? Maybe this helps them. Maybe this helps them play within themselves a little better.
I hope so.
Instead of forcing the ball down the field all the time, especially on third and short, third and medium. Maybe they just get the third and medium. Just go get the first down and give yourself another 3 downs to keep going.
Which they need, which is something they need to start doing anyway, regardless of whether Gino's hurt or not. On third down, go get the first down. I get that you got one-on-one coverage on the outside and you want to take that shot.
Yes.
But if you've got a guaranteed first down, you take that first. And I think that's the one thing that this team is missing at the moment, because if they would stop taking those shots on third down and instead go get the first down and then try the shot next play, they would be much better off.
Agreed.
And during the big chunk of last year when this offense was really humming, that's what Geno did. He moved the sticks. I don't know why he and this offense have gone away from trying to get the sticks to move and instead going after those big plays. It isn't working. Just focus on keeping the ball and continuing the drive.
Maybe that starts this week. Let's hope so. All right, let's get out of here, Keith. Let's have a great game. Let's everyone happy Thanksgiving. I hope everyone has friends and family around to watch the game. That makes it a lot more fun and exciting, especially if it's a win. We will be back I think we'll record Friday. We've talked about to kind of recap this thing and get us ready for next week. So follow Keith on Twitter at Myers NFL. You can follow me at NW Seahawk. The show is Seahawks Playbook Podcast. You can find us on your favorite podcast platforms and our own YouTube channel. When you get there, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you get us into your feed every time we put out a new show. And until next time, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Seahawks Playbook Podcast listeners, thanks for joining us for another edition of the show. You can find us on Twitter. Bill is at NW Seahawk. Keith is at Myers NFL. And the show is at Hawks Playbook. You can listen and subscribe to the show at SeahawksPlaybook.com.